We're really glad that the Beltway on 270 has loosed Scott Simon from his grip and that he's here now to join us, as are you. I'm Cheryl Kagan, and it was my honor to represent Gaithersburg in the legislature for 8 years. But really, I'm here because I'm a huge Scott Simon fan. How many NPR junkies are in the audience? Okay. You all know Scott. You all know that you can't have a Saturday morning without a dose of Scott Simon, right? You all know that he has reported from 50 countries, 5 continents, and dear God, 10 wars. But what you may not know is what a fabulous author he is. Over the last few weeks, in preparation for today, I have read 2 of his books. And as the recovering politician, I had to start with Windy City, which is about the mayor of Chicago, his beloved hometown, being found dead. And it's a mystery, and it's joyful. There's so much character and ethnicity and politics, and it's a really fun read. If you like politics at all, it's a murder mystery with a great dose of political intrigue, and I recommend it. His newest book is, again, from the heart. Scott writes about what he loves. He loves baseball, he loves politics, and he adores his family. And this is about how he and Caroline came to meet and bring home their 2 beautiful daughters who are here with us today. And I see Caroline coming to join us now. We were told to be short and sweet in our introductions. Hard to get a political person to do that, but we're here for Scott Simon and not for anything else. And the last thing I'll say is after Scott speaks, there will be some time for questions and answers, and we're going to ask that you come to the microphone and make sure you speak nice and loudly so we can all hear your question. With that, I'm delighted to welcome to Gaithersburg, Scott Simon.
Very good to be here, and I apologize for the late arrival. It was just hard getting here from the District of Columbia. And however, it was kind of thrilling to pull up in the golf cart, I don't mind telling you. Let me just read this if you observe the cover of the book. I have a picture I keep in whatever office I have and will ever have. My wife, a soft raven beauty with a radiant smile, holding Elise aloft in her graceful hands, almost like a fluttering dove. I have made my wife smile occasionally. I have never made her smile like that, even once. Elise is in a small white silk Chinese dress that we got, I wish we had a better story, at the Nansheng Walmart, and she's also smiling. The grand, goofy, and mischievous smile that makes people smile back, laugh, and say, "What personality?" It's certainly a smile that discloses a hint of the charismatic and clever little girl that she's become. Because those smiles are so euphoric and Elise's silk dress is immaculately white like swaddling clothes, many people assume it was taken at the moment she was placed in our lives. Actually, the photo was taken about 3 days later, after Elise had grown tired of crying, and had learned that however goofy and immature we were, the new people who had appeared in her life were easily manipulated into fetching egg custard, Cheerios, ice cream, whatever she wanted, as she so much as looked at us. Our last morning in China, we awoke in the high thread count sheets of a classy hotel in Guangzhou. I think some other people here might have had that experience. Elise was giggling in her crib by then. I wondered how a little girl from the wilds of rural China could wind up having a laugh that reminded me of Jerry Lewis. I whisked her down to the breakfast buffet. Smoked fish melted in her small mouth. Maple syrup dribbled down her chin. Our flight would leave in just a few hours. As we sat behind a huge glass pane overlooking the Pearl River, I traced the route that would take us from Hong Kong over Siberia, the North Pole, the snowy peaks of the Canadian Rockies, and finally the towers of Chicago. I promised her that soon she would see New York, London, and Paris. I promised her that soon she would ride a pony, dance ballet, see the cherry blossoms, and eat guacamole. I think we've done that pretty much. I sang to our daughter, forgive me, Pearl River, wider than a mile, we're crossing you in style today. I actually had lyrics to the whole song, but you know, it's ruinously expensive. You have to pay for the rights even to satirize song lyrics, so I just make do in the book with these 2 lines. Elise spent 18 of the 21 hours aloft, snuggled and sleeping on her mother's shoulder. Business class travelers would ordinarily blanch on seeing a red-faced infant arrive in their premium class precincts, put down their Financial Times and smiled. A few even gingerly chucked Elise's chin. On arrival in Chicago, we were directed into a holding area. We sat alongside families from Poland, Ethiopia, South Korea, Kenya, and El Salvador. No matter where their flights had begun, the small boys and girls had been dressed in pressed white shirts, dark suits, and plaid skirts to fly over oceans in the middle of the night and enter the United States. An immigration official in a broad brown hat called out, "Simon family." We smiled at the name, which we were just getting used to. He gave a last look at white forms separated by pink and green tissue papers. "Well, everything seems in order, Simons," he said, handing over the folder and pointing to a place in the customs hall about 20 feet ahead. "When you cross that line," he said, "your little girl is a citizen of the United States." Then he put one of his huge hands gently under our daughter's chin and smiled. "Welcome home, sweetheart." Well, this is a book that my wife and I had once vowed that I would never write. We had a social worker for both of our adoptions, so I suppose a number of people here have had. And she told us that people who adopt children, especially children from China, are the most overly literate group of people on earth, because we can't seem to bring a chia pet into our homes without writing a book about it. You know, a lot of these volumes are privately published, and people have sent them to us over the years. And they're very good and very touching, and they often have punchlines in Chinese, the way my Uncle Sheldon used to tell jokes with Yiddish punchlines. But they all seem to end when the baby comes home. And of course, the real adventure begins as children grow up and you become a family, and you learn how little mere blood and genes count in your daily life with each other. Now, I think what changed in terms of the attitude that Caroline and I have about me writing a book like this, I spoke about our family a few times on the air, not merely as many times as people think, but we had an editorial meeting last summer, and at my place on the conference table, there often is a pile of books people want me to take a look at, and on top was you might have seen it come out last year, was a book with the title something like "Shut Up About Your Perfect Child." And I said to our producer, Bridget Kelly, I said, "Well, you know, Bridget, it's a catchy title, but it's not really the kind of book we do." And she said, "We don't want you to do an interview, we just want you to read it." But Caroline and I became aware of the fact that that the story of our family had become interesting to people, and maybe even in some way important. And my wife and I have grown to believe very deeply in adoption. Not because it's a good thing to do, but because it does good things for us. We've grown to feel that it's a miracle, a flesh and blood miracle, as miraculous as childbirth, and just about as ancient. I actually did a little research into the history of adoption. Interestingly, it's, you know, nowadays you actually begin with your conclusion, then find the research to support it. But I actually did a little research, and you can read accounts that stretch back into ancient times. Adoption is as old as childbirth, or as we refer to it now, childbirth in the traditional Abraham and Sarah begetting manner. And you read ancient accounts, and you understand that there would be these blistering battles between ancient peoples. And as the victorious warriors would move over the blistered landscape, they would still often stop and pick up children who had been left behind. The children of people they identified as their enemies, and yet they brought them into their lives. I think we're wired to pick up and care for those children who are left behind, thrown aside, abandoned, relinquished, or as in the case of our daughters, given up at great pain and personal sacrifice by the birth mother. I think my children are safely away. We didn't begin at this point. I think it's only fair to ask how we got there. So let me read a section that I believe is entitled "Intimate Intrusions." I wish you could understand this orally. The impulse to bear as well as to care for children is deep. My wife and I tried until we were black and blue from all the ways there are of getting pregnant these days, traditional and state-of-the-art. There are a lot of words to describe a couple who are trying to reproduce on demand. Romantic isn't among them. I make no attempt to describe my wife's experience in the book. And it would be boorish to ask her when you run into her at the kettle corn stand, but you're invited, I write from my perspective, you're invited to take a seat in the waiting room of a fertility doctor. Men nod tightly, smile wanly, and feign profound interest in an old National Geographic. You do not ask your seatmates, and what brings you here? When their name is called, you do not pump your fist and shout, "Go get him, Tiger!" When your name is called, you do not smile, wink, and swagger out saying, "Back in a flash." An earnest young man takes you through a subdued hallway that looks less like a hospital passageway than a corridor in an airport motel. Oh, if these walls could speak. He shows you into a room outfitted with a recliner lounger, large screen television, tissues, and piles of magazine that are not National Geographic. He hands you a small plastic cup. No thanks, I never drink before 6. The nice young man asks if he can get you anything else to make you comfortable. Taco chips? A brewski? Hey, can I watch a ball game in here? Poor choice of words. He closes a door. You hurry to lock it. Oh, sorry, sir, I thought reproductive services was the photocopier. You have to think about that one for a while, thank you. You hear the man slide some kind of sign into place. Quiet? Men at work? You quickly survey the inventory of videos. Where were these when I was a teenager? Every video seems to have whips, chains, nymphs, or studs in the title, and I don't mean Turkle. Frankly, my dear, I'd rather see Casablanca. You leaf through magazines. Playboy is on the top, but the interview inside with Quentin Tarantino distracts me. It's a sad admission of age, isn't it? I admonish myself, bear down. I pick up another magazine that makes Playboy look like The Economist. But the effect is not invigorating. Finally, I lie back and think of England. They've been working for centuries. The deed is done, the eagle has landed. I came, I saw, I conquered, or perhaps that's in reverse. Very subtle in this section. On my first occasion, I placed my contribution through a small revolving door designed to receive it, similar to the portal used to pass food to prisoners in solitary confinement, I noticed, and told a nurse, I filled a couple of cups, in case you need extra. She sighed. Every man makes that joke. Another time, I was led into the chamber by a young medical technician who looked up from his clipboard. Hey, he said, these Scott Simon? I nodded. He called out as he closed the door, have a good day, Scott. I wondered if doctors later looked at the contents of a vial under a microscope, observed the sperm kicking and swimming, and remarked, you know, they don't look like he sounds. I'm just going to go ahead a bit. I joke about all of this now because it still hurts. If you're trying to create a child and can't, you feel that you are a failure. You feel that you've fallen short at one of the few things that scientists, creationists, Jesuits, Lubavitchers, atheists, polygamists, and monastic Buddhist monks agree that every living thing from a gnat to an elephant was put on this earth to do. Seed new life, continue the species, keep creation going. 15-year-old girls produce children with 16-year-old boys in the back seats of cars. Why can't two loving adults who have contemplated parenthood and are prepared to offer love, patience, and devotion come up with enough chromosomal matter to stick together and create a child? You feel useless, worthless. You feel that somewhere deep inside your cells you've betrayed and failed the person you love most. So you lower your doors, you give injections, you jump at the jangle of the telephone and wait for results. You wait for a miracle. Well, a miracle was ahead. We just didn't know yet that it would take the form of two small girls who would be born to people we didn't know on the other side of the world. Well, there, for a little comic relief, that segment.